In today's podcast, we are going to speak about one woman who bought my ebook and she became my very good friend. And the first day she contacted me, I was writing with her actually all the evening, and we understood each other a lot and agreed on the relationship between men and women in Europe and how different it is in Egypt. Just late in the evening, she just told me her own story that she fell in love with an Egyptian man also. However, her story is very different from the book I wrote, and I want to share her story with you today. Imagine a beautiful woman with a blonde hair from Spain called Elena. She didn't come to Egypt to find a partner, but went to Egypt only to fulfill her mom's dream. She had no emotional relationship with Egypt, and she went there really like a tourist with her mother, just to see the sights and enjoy Egypt. But her fate really wanted something else. Fate really can turn people's lives in a way we can't even imagine until it happens to us. And so she eventually met the Egyptian man from Aswan called Abdullah, whom she fell in love with, but this time the love was really two-sided. And even they spent most of the time together and understood each other greatly. Nothing more seriously had ever happened. They barely kissed each other, they never practically touched each other, and yet they loved each other so deeply. Everything looked really great. Abdullah treated her really with respect and didn't promise her things he could not fulfill. He did not lie on her and didn't steal her money. But still, there was something wrong. After time, our beautiful Elena knew that her Abdullah was already married. He finally confessed to it, and even that he has a children. Abdullah also said that his marriage had been arranged, that he had never loved his wife, and that from now on he understood what true love was. So, Abdullah made her offer to become his second wife. Of course, that totally took her breath away. Elena hadn't expected anything of it, nor had she meant to accept his offer. But they stayed in touch and wrote for months, even though she was back in her country. They couldn't break free from each other. So Elena stayed in vicious circle, knowing that the love itself is impossible or leads nowhere. Abdullah does not want to divorce, and neither did she want to deprive his children from that, and on the other hand, she didn't want to be his second wife and change her whole life just because of one guy. Elena really didn't want to do. So she took time for herself, and only time itself showed how everything turned out. Eventually, after long months, Elena decided to break this relationship. That it really hurts her so much that she cannot and does not want to continue in it, but decided to end this relationship. Elena wanted to meet him for the last time, and this time to enjoy every single second. And so Elena really traveled to her chosen one, and what a big surprise was, his own family hosted her in Aswan. She lived with them, they took care of her, and she spent her time practically only with his family. But the very first day she arrived, Abdullah treated her in a distant way. Of course, she felt something was wrong. That night he told her he wants to end with her. Elena really couldn't believe his words and how he could say it. And if he wanted to end it, why did he invite her to his family? Later, Elena found out his wife suspicious him of infidelity. Abdullah was in very bad condition because he practically didn't cheat on his wife, and now he even felt bad in his conscience and because of his religion. He had a lot of chaos in himself. So he asked Elena to meet his wife and tell her personally that nothing happened between them. You can imagine how hard it must have been for her. But still Elena accepted it and met his wife. They had all together a lunch and Elena confirmed her that nothing happened between them. Can you imagine how difficult it must have been for her? How much she suffered to say those words? And even his wife is not stupid. She felt it's just words, and when she saw them together, all was clear for her. That evening, his wife asked Abdullah for divorce. For the Egyptians, the family is really on the first place. And of course, Abdullah decided to fight for his wife and mainly for his children. And everything finally settled with his wife, but he left Elena immediately with words. He doesn't want her to contact him anymore, and even he will never contact her again. He left 3 days before her holidays ended. Yet she spent the remaining 3 days with his family. It was probably the worst and the saddest days of Elena's life. But everything was over, and she could return home with a calm conscience and the beginning of a new life. On the other hand, I have to say that this Abdullah was really nice, kind, and really he fell in love with her, and still managed to resist the temptation and eventually end everything. To end this relationship really requires a lot of courage because most of the Egyptians would continue lying on both sides, on the wife and on the new love. But Abdullah honestly ended it, which he has my great admiration. But I'm so happy for Elena that she can finally start a new life and she will not get trapped in this unlucky life forever. Thank you for listening and I'm looking forward on you in the next podcast.